Welcome to the App Advisory Show, your fortnightly dose of all things cloud accounting, apps, and app advisory.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the App Advisory Show. I'm delighted to have Jon Dudgeon from BluSky. He's the co-founder and CFO. Good afternoon, Jon.
Hey Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm sort of melting away in this Costa del England that we're in at the minute. What's it like up in the northeast?
Oh, it's lovely. I've as you know, I'm a keen paddleboarder, so I started my day out on the North Sea and managed to spot 3 dolphins this morning. So that was pretty cool way to kick the day off. But it's a bit cloudy now. So
that's a good way to start. That's a good way to start the year. Is that something you do every sort of day or try and do quite regularly during the week?
Yeah, I do try and sort of get out and a bit of running, paddleboarding and out on my bike. That's me. So try and do an hour or two every day.
Great stuff. Well,
much easier these days since we're at home a lot more, so you don't feel as guilty running away from the office to do it.
No, get that break in. Right, brilliant. I mean, so we're going to have a chat a little bit about you and the firm. You've been, as a firm, like pretty prevalent in certainly the UK in terms of cloud and digital adoption. So I'd be interested to hear a little bit about where you've got to. But tell us a bit about you, Jon, and sort of how you arrived at BluSky and what that journey was like.
Yeah, so I sort of left uni in 1998, and I wasn't one of these people who was on the milk round and I'm going to be an accountant for the rest of my life. So spent a year pondering what I was going to do, and then back in those days you had to go into the careers office and get a little brochure, and Arthur Andersen stuck out because they were paying graduates back then 16.5 grand for a training contract. So I was like, I'll give that a bounce, and off I went. So I went through a really tough interview process and then joined Anderson's, where I qualified with Anderson's, and then the sort of N1 happened, went in. I sort of benefited from that because Deloitte or merged with Anderson's, took Anderson's over, and there was roles available. So I pushed on probably quicker than I would have if N1 hadn't happened, which was cool. So I stuck around longer than most of my peers. Most people jump off when they qualify. I stuck around for another sort of 2 or 3 years, and then went into industry, initially with an insurance company, which was career suicide. So it was horrendous. It was lots of meetings, talking about lots of meetings. And then I joined GE Money in Leeds, which was great. It was the best of both worlds. I was in a finance role, but very much interacting with the rest of the business. It was very commercially focused. But all the way through, I was kind of an entrepreneur with no bright ideas. So I always wanted to kind of kick on and start my own business. And in the world of corporate, I always felt as though I went through, the sort of office door, put a mask on. And, I always had that sort of uneasy feeling that I could never do it for the rest of my life. So about 2007, 2008, I met my current business partner, Dave Gibson. He'd already started practice off, so he'd done all the hard work. I came along sort of a year later, and just as he was looking to sort of expand from himself and another, and that's where BluSky was born. I was fortunate enough to maneuver myself into a redundancy situation with GE and gave myself a bit of a financial cushion for 12-18 months to get accustomed to not just having to sort of do the work, but get paid for it as well.
Pretty different, that corporate move. It's funny you say about the careers office. I forgot about those days. I mean, I went for I think I went for the RAF and the Navy and the Army because I didn't know what I want to do. And they're like, "Oh, do you like physical stuff?" Like, yeah, I like sport. But go and join the forces was like the only thing we got given, or become a PE teacher, and that didn't really feel like good. I ended up being actually I think it was a YTS car salesman, which you might believe nowadays. But I didn't sell a thing actually back then because I couldn't even drive anyway. So it's whack. It just made me laugh about going back to those careers conversations that you had.
First task was to pass your driving test.
Yeah, which I didn't. It took me twice to do it. I ended up passing it in Newcastle actually in the end when I was at college up there. But and so when you I mean, that's pretty interesting going like from a corporate, and that's a big shift, a big change to running your own firm and trying to build that. But how do you, like, when you say you met Dave and he'd done sort of the hard work of getting things running, like, how is that interaction? Did you already know him from a previous role or a previous world, or was it?
No, I actually got introduced to Dave just to talk about sort of setting an accountancy practice up. So I'd gone into Business Link in North Shields to have a bit of a discussion and understand what it was all about. And Dave was doing some advisory, like business advice through Business Link. So I got talking to him, and then we just sort of hit it off. And we didn't start the business the next day. We spent 9 or 12 months kind of understanding each other. And I actually went in when we and audited his practice, to see what was kind of going on, which he always reminds us of even now. But yeah, we kind of went out for beers, and I think that's what you got to do with a business partner. It is a marriage essentially. And it's probably more than a marriage at times.
Yeah, brilliant. So that's interesting. So no real sort of connection that, just got working together and sort of gelled. Yeah, interesting. But my business partner, like Dave, also called Dave, it must be the going thing for a business partner. We used to play football together, and I managed him as a player. And then he was getting made redundant, and I was looking to get out of corporate. And I wouldn't say we were brilliant pals before, but we knew each other. But then sort of this opportunity came up. So it's interesting how these things sort of arise.
I think myself and Dave, we probably didn't know it at the time, but we're similar in many ways, but different in many others. So we I think it's key that you've got different strengths. So, in terms of the practice, he was very much tax focused, and I was very much accounts focused. So it was quite a nice blend. He's got a few more years under his belt in terms of experience. So, that was helpful from working with clients as well, because clients had, they could pick and choose between us. So it was like we always worked out who was the best person to be advising. Still do today. So yeah. Brilliant.
Okay, that's good. Interesting. No, I think like if you are trying to, I think sometimes you like to talk about choosing people, and I'm like you. We didn't choose each other, just like two people at the same point. But we went to some business coaching, and they sort of profiled us and stuff. And I want to make decisions like now, and Dave never wants to make a decision. So you have to get these ways of working together. Of agreeing stuff, and it was invaluable. Actually, we got that in 6 months. So if anybody's listening and they're getting into a partnership, just try and work out, like you say, where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and try and play to each other's strengths, and hopefully get a good rounded offering.
Some of the work we do with our clients actually centered around that, and using some behavioral competency techniques just to understand. And we've had it where there's maybe 2 or 3 directors who've worked with each other for 10 years, and we've taken them through this. You wouldn't probably expect this from your accountant, but we've taken them through sort of this journey with the behavioral competency questionnaire, and then put it out on the table, and it's kind of been like, oh, right, so that's why you act like that, or that's why we're clashing this situation. So that's been quite cool.
It's very invaluable, those sort of behavioral, the stress points, and when you're unstressed and stressed, and the different reactions you get. Very useful, those types of understandings. So sort of fast forward into BluSky. There's some similarities here from what you're saying, because I went from corporate to SME, and I found that quite a big shift in terms of working in a corporate, completely different clients, and then you've got these SMEs whose world is entirely different. Like, how did you find that? Talk us a bit through the evolution of BluSky.
So on day one, I felt excited and empowered, and I was kind of like, I was out there, I was starting a new business off, a new venture in a new world. And actually, my first client was introduced by a recruitment firm that was trying to place me into FD roles at the time, and sort of so that just the buzz I got from sort of working with that first client, and I just had a genuine connection with SME business owners. It just felt like I was more in touch and being able to advise and kind of relate to them. But it was a shock, suddenly you were you know, you were the IT manager, the HR manager, the accountant of the business, you know, everything all on day one. So and all of that was, you know, I'm totally naive to be honest when I kicked off. But again, I enjoyed it because I didn't have anyone, well, apart from Dave, he still does now, anyone telling us what to do. So yeah.
Great. So that was, I mean, that is the buzz, isn't it, when you get going and you start to win and you start seeing these people sort of believe in you and want to work with you. It's great. So was it just the two of you initially? And how long was that go on for? Or did you get straight into employing some people?
No, we had someone as well, Terry, who worked for us for a good few years. He was sort of, he was kind of a bookkeeper plus, I suppose. He could do management accounts, bit of bookkeeping, and probably do a year end as well. So, you know, when myself and Dave were out networking and, you know, trying to bring in new business, he was just back at the office, kind of keep things kind of going along, which at the time was, you know, it was a big expense for us, you know, employing someone. And we always used to joke, it was kind of like, you know, we're on the baked beans this month sort of thing. But it kind of, I guess it kept us hungry and you know, and out there, and, you know, we're still eating baked beans today, to be honest.
just higher caliber baked beans.
Yeah, we're on Heinz now rather
absolutely the 57.
Yeah.
Branston baked beans, by the way, are the winner. If you want to go posh, the Branston baked beans all day.
Maybe next year.
That's get the year-end figures in first and see if you can get into them. So, like, at that point, were you aware of digital? Was that just not anything that was on the radar? Like, where were you in terms of sort of digital adoption at that point when there's the three of you?
So I guess coming out of GE, I was, you know, I guess I was used to, you know, processes and all the technology, and that was one of the eye openers when we got into doing a set of accounts there on Sage. You know, we went with Sage, local sort of local, that's what we went with, and through that through that relationship, we met one of the guys who was working on Sage 1 at the time, who I still know today. I see him at the football. He sits 10 rows in front of us in St James's Park. He's not with Sage anymore, but we got talking, and he was kind of like, look, we really want to get accountancy firms involved in the beta test. Would you guys mind doing it? And we were kind of like, yeah, we'll give it a go. Sort of went in there. So when Sage 1 launched, we were, we were on the videos, and we were taken down to London, which was really exciting. We got taken to London and went into this, I think it was a hotel in Soho with like cinema beneath it when they did the launch. And then we got interviewed by Accountancy Age and sort of taken off in a taxi to meet some journalists and all this stuff. And yeah, we were like, you know, taking calls from clients at the time and all the rest of it. So that was exciting. And subsequently, we've met with sort of Gary Turner at Xero, and he's come into the offices at BluSky, and he was like, that was at the time Xero launched in the UK, so they were like, oh, you know, Sage are going to get the sort of the lead on this, and, you know, actually the opposite kind of probably happened for us as a firm. Certainly in terms of usage, we got burnt a little bit, I think, at the start, because possibly that product wasn't right to go out to market. And at that point, Matt, we went down we'll be client led. You know, we're accountants. We can use all of this accountancy software. You know, we're not going to be led by the software provider. So we started working with all of them, all of the different platforms.
Yeah. Okay. So how long did that go on for? Where you've been? It's interesting. You're so early in Sage 1. I just didn't know that, because I've always seen you with the Blue of Xero.
There's a horrible YouTube video.
I'm going to search it out.
I think it's hopefully been deleted. It's so old, but it's pretty bad.
So how long did you go with the client? Because there will be firms listening to this who are in that world of, I'm going to go and let the client pick the Xeros, the free agents, the QBOs, the Sage Business Cloud, and whatever else are their cash flow. Like, how long? What sort of turned you to go a bit more specific on what you want to offer, and how long did you go sort of agnostic on this?
We probably went too long is the answer.
Okay.
Probably, let's think, it was maybe 5, 6, maybe even 7 years. You know, it was. It took us a while, and what happened to us was we were out there, and the types of clients we were meeting at the time were generally tech clients who were sort of, I guess, early adopters of tech as well. So they were already coming to us with Zero sort of in tow. And we were, so we basically had this cluster of clients that was growing and growing and growing on one platform. And it just became so obvious how the inefficiencies of looking after all of the platform was slowing us down. In terms of onboarding new staff and building the team and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And I think I can't remember if I told you this story, but it was myself and Dave who were at Accountex, and we'd been there and had a great day, and we would come back on the tube through East London, and we both looked at each other and said, we just got to get on with this now. And we made the decision, and we were kind of, it's interesting what you said about your Dave. Dave was like, oh, well, what happens if this happens and that happens? We were kind of like, look, we've got to get on with it. And, that's what we did. And it was a journey with the Zero migrations and sort of bringing the clients on and being brave. I mean, it was, being brave was a difficult thing. But now all of our clients are on Zero, and we won't onboard anyone who isn't sort of looking to migrate or work within that, because that's the best way we can add value to their business and help them with the services that they want from us.
Yeah, it maximizes your service, doesn't it? And you know exactly how you can get everything out of that particular platform, because I know you use other tools in alongside that. I think it's interesting as well about how you get into this, because you've got me thinking about something we did. So BlueHub's known like for apps and all that type of world. And before that, we used to do software development, and Bespoke will still do a bit of that. But we had a little stint, and I bet there's a YouTube video you're on about this. We had a little stint called Blue Help, which was this idea of going out and plugging people into an account system and a CRM, like very small businesses, just to get them going. A CRM, maybe a timesheet system, and I can't remember. We had this little pack of 3, and it's called Blue Help, and I think the Twitter handle's still knocking around somewhere. But what happened with that was we were doing cash flow with a K at the time, because it was the only one really knocking around. But there was a guy locally to us in Shrewsbury who built his own cloud accounting system, which was better than cash flow. And we were like, this is really good, not thinking about the ecosystem. And then about 6 months later, we came across Zero was the only real player there. And QBO weren't really there, and Sage certainly weren't ready. And we were like, well, this is where we should go. So it was amazing actually at that point that you try these little things and areas, and they actually lead, even if you've got no idea they're going to lead there, a bit like your the Sage Business Cloud very early adopter, and then that leads into working with Zero more so. It's just interesting, these little stepping stones that you take.
I think that's the fun thing about starting any business off, is the opportunity that can come your way, and then you're empowered to follow it and go with it because you can. So yeah, that's what I enjoy. I still today enjoy that side of being the business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so like we start to pick your platform. You've got Zero. What else are you using in that space at the moment for you? What are the sort of key tools that are part of your platform?
Yeah, so alongside Zero, we introduced Receipt Bank, Dext as it's called now. I'm finally getting used to it. Not sure the client size when you start. How you find Dext? They're like, what?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, is that a Netflix movie or something? Whatever. So we got Dext in terms of expense management and purchases. We've got Fluidly to help with the cash flow side of the business. Trip Catcher, which is a nice little app for mileage that's still kind of knocking around and clients use. And then we've got Fathom as well, and we've still got a couple of clients on Futurely.
Okay. Great. And then so fast forward a bit, you get that platform in place, you're using those types of apps. What size are you now in terms of employee base?
So we've got 25 roles. They're not all filled at the moment, but we've got 25 roles in the business, and we're looking to expand that by 2 or 3 over the next 12, 18 months as well.
Right. Okay. So how have you got there? How have you got from you, Dave and Terry, to 25 to 28 sort of potential employees? Like, what's that been like?
A lot of graft.
Yeah, hard work.
I think, yeah, I remember talking to Dave and when we started, and I was like, oh, really looking forward to just, chilling out when I go to work, leaving the corporate life behind and put my feet up. Well, I think the opposite happened, to be honest. It was, it's been sort of, it's generally a graph going in that direction, but kind of like most business, it's swam along. So yeah, we've put a lot of hard work in, and you make mistakes with certainly with hiring people. I would say it's tough, and attracting people of good quality to come to a small business often is it's a risk. I think not everyone's going to sort of walk away from the corporate world and come and join a a reasonably small sort of accountancy practice.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, actually. When you're starting, I always think it's that when you're like less than 6 people, you still feel like you're a bit of a bedroom job, and then the people turning up to see you, well, who else we're meeting? Well, you've met half of us already, and there's 3 in the room, and there's only 2 more out there. That's really hard then to convey, and I can always see it in some people's eyes when we were interviewing that they're not quite there, and they can see the risk of joining such a small business at that point. And I always struggle at that point. I always find really difficult. Once I got to 8, I always thought, well, actually, there's a few people and holidays covered and all that type of thing. But I always found up to 6 was a difficult time to hire.
Yeah, we had like a no frills office, let's put it that way. Which it's sort of like your first house. You get used to stuff, don't you? And it was like the leaking window and having to come out of the bucket and do all this. And then suddenly there was 10 of us, and they were like, what is going on here? So you grow up quickly. I suppose. I mean, in terms of that, we started off with 2 rooms in a like an old Georgian building, which lovely old sea captain's house in North Shields. We gradually just sort of took over 2 floors and just added on as and when we felt that we could afford it. And we didn't go out on day one and get all the fixtures and fittings and everything else in place and then sort of go, now we've got to pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that sort of evolution. I think I met you guys when you were in central Newcastle.
Yeah.
When you were there, it's the first time I think I met you guys up there.
Yeah.
Which is good. Okay, so in terms of what have you enjoyed the most about this sort of digital adoption and where you're at now? So people will be at the start of this and thinking, well, what's the enjoyable bits? And I'm going to ask you what's the maybe not so enjoyable bits as well. But what's been enjoyable? What have you really enjoyed about having this digital sort of platform, and then your interaction with clients and SMEs in general? What's been enjoyable for you?
Yeah, I think so there's one particular story I always tell was I was going to London on the train, and I was kind of like, wouldn't it be brilliant if I could just do a bank rec while I was sort of flying between Doncaster and Grantham. And that's what Xero allows you to do. We actually did that one journey just to because we could. So I think like with the platform, it's just the flexibility of what you can do, and I guess I always use myself as the example as the business owner. On my phone, I've got Xero and everything else from that. I check it every morning, and that's what we encourage our clients to do and kind of get involved with. And the time that business owners have been able to sort of retrieve, because we've been able to do our job quicker and slicker, and the control that they've been able to sort of exercise over the business is kind of important. And I had one client who that actually runs an IT business, and they were on Sage, and we were taking them off onto Xero. There was a bit of internal resistance from the bookkeeper, and he was going on holiday, and I was like, it'd be great, man, you can check your profit and loss on the Sun Lounge. and because he's like most business owners, you're never off work sort of thing, and he did it, and it was like we had a chuckle about it, and that I guess that's what the cloud gives the business owner, that control. And from our point of view, we are more efficient. I mean, our office hasn't got any paper in it now. It had a little bit lurking in a cupboard as the pandemic sort of kicked off, so we went in and removed it. And we've been able to sort of continue working probably in a more efficient way because of the apps and because of the cloud platforms that we work with. So
Great.
definitely the flexibility, the efficiency, and then the value that we can give to the clients potentially if they want to pay us for it.
I think one question that I just have as well is that, when you went from that sort of agnostic, I'm going to let the clients choose. I think some people think, well, and maybe this was Dave's thought, well, what will those clients think if we say you've got to use this particular solution?
Yeah.
Like, has there actually been that much objection to you putting forward, I think this is the right solution for you and this is the way you'll get the best service from us, when it actually came to the conversations? Has that been much of a problem? And truthfully, I'm not asking for the right or wrong. It's just, I know people will be thinking, I can't make that leap into a single platform because I'm going to have so many clients who aren't willing to be pushed or maneuvered into that sort of way of working.
Yeah, I mean, initially we had a lot of clients who were on Sage Line 50. So, for those guys, it was kind of like, well, we don't see what you do anyway. It goes into this sort of magic box and then you produce a set of accounts for us.
Yeah.
So not so much there. But then we did have a number of clients who were using cash flow and free agent particularly. There was a bit of resistance, and it maybe took literally 2 or 3 years, to sort of wean people off, I guess. In terms of new clients who maybe are on, say, QBO, for example, there's a bit of brand loyalty at the start, but then I guess they want to see all of the other things that they can get from that relationship with their accountant. So the general feedback is it's much of a muchness from a client point of view. They're kind of happy with it as long as you get the onboard right and sort of work with them in terms of the training and get in the setup. Then we haven't had I wouldn't say we haven't had none, but we haven't had a huge amount.
Yeah, I think what's interesting there is where you've like almost nurtured like people, so showed them, I think you should be using this. It's not been like a mandation of on 1st of July, you're going to be rocking onto this platform. It's like cajoling, moving. At some point, you'll make a decision on that client if they never move, but ultimately, you're not going in there with an iron bar to say, right, you're on the way, but you are telling them that's where you want them to end up. So I think that's interesting. Okay, so there's going to be people listening to this who are like probably you guys in 2008, 2010, that period of time. If you were starting over with this sort of bank of 12, 13 years of information, certainly on digital adoption, is there anything you would look at doing differently or anything you wouldn't do or wished you hadn't done as a bit of a helping hand to others in the same boat?
Yeah, I think so the digital adoption is one side of it, but I think it kind of links in with the recruitment of your team, because if your team aren't into the tech, I think, and the advisory side and working with clients quite closely and are really good communicators and, almost need to be available kind of when the business owners are working on their accounts. I think it's that recruitment piece and sort of standing true to your values as business owners when you start. It's all of that type of thing. And there's a book called The E-Myth. I don't know if you've read it. It's kind of like I read that 6 or 7 years too late.
Right. Okay.
It was kind of like that. And I think I set the business up with the end in mind, because when you've got a handful of clients, you can't actually see what you can't see further down the line. So it's getting your systems and processes set up for when you scale from, and that'll just help you move forward quicker.
Yeah, I think I just added on to that, I think you're dead right. I mean, your business is only as good as your people.
Yeah.
And to be honest, your services are still only as good as your people. So, and obviously the technology and the digital stuff all helps with your process, but people, I'm going to guess that you and Dave haven't sat down and done every single process. You've asked good people to come in and build that process and help you evolve that. You might have started with version 1, but you're looking for people to come in and really build their own little areas up. And that's really important with this world, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think like as a business owner as well, you can get pulled into it and you've set something up and then you can get quite precious about it. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
that was brilliant. And then suddenly you're getting, you're building a team, and, we always recruit. We always say when we recruit, everyone's opinion's important and your view's important. That's kind of one of the sort of benefits of joining us. And then suddenly, that process is not very good, and you're like, and they, okay, well, do you want to go away and fix it? Yeah, I do. And in some ways we've had some really good hires who've taken us forward quicker because we've trusted them and allowed them to kind of get on with things. And I suppose that's one of the other great things about running the business, is seeing individuals grow, develop.
Yeah.
And I guess you've just got to get to terms with they're not going to be with you forever. That's, no one's going to work harder than the business owner, and no one's going to love the business more than the business owner, the practice owner. And staff come and go, and that you've just got to embrace that, I think.
Yeah, I think as well, it's the freedom to let them go and do it. This took me a long time, when certainly in Blue Hub land, I had views on how things should be done, and I still do.
Yeah.
But what I realized is that I still might think my way is the best, but if it's waiting for me to do it, it'll never happen anyway. So I'm always just thankful that there's something happening, and maybe I can make a little bit of a helping hand, or they might not see it as a helping hand, to be honest, but some sort of improvement suggestion or something. But ultimately, I've just realized that actually a lot of this stuff, if it waited to be done to how I want it to be done, is just never going to happen. So you're much better getting something done and then helping people improve it once it's there. That took me ages to get to, little bun fights in the office about how we should be filling in a CRM and what details should be going in. Well, the real detail is like, just get it filled in. We'll improve it over time. And I think that when you're trying to grow a business, that's one of the things you've got to let go of these, like you say, precious pieces, and also not be so wedded to how exactly it's going to be done, as long as it's done and it's good quality.
Yeah, definitely. I had just this week we've got one of the students, Jazz, who's she's a fantastic graduate, who joined us sort of 18 months ago, and we're introducing sort of videos and Loom and kind of knowledge share like that, and we went on a call with a client, and we were kind of recording it and going through setting up Dext. And I didn't give it any notice, really. It was 2 days. How we do it? Oh, do you fancy doing this? It's going to be great fun, and it was. And she just embraced it, and it was amazing to see, sort of in action. And and sure, I was like, oh, wow, this tool really is good, isn't it? Just take photographs.
A lot more to it. Brilliant. That's great. So that's one thing that certainly with scaling, allowing people to own a piece of of what they're doing, build it, and you're looking for that mindset, aren't you? That those people who are going to come and take that, play their part for 2 years, 5 years, move on, but have left it better state than when they arrived, and that's all you're really hopeful for with the people that you recruit.
Yeah.
Okay. Question just around technology that we always ask. So apps, it can be personal apps, it can be business stuff. What sort of tech is floating your boat, John, or the firm's boat?
Oh yeah, so I suppose I am addicted to my iPhone. It's like it is, it's one of those things. In my house, my other half Sophie's always giving us a nudge on, but it is. Overall, that is such a great tool, and the apps I've got on there, I've got my sort of finance app. So I've got Xero, I've got my bank accounts and all that kind of stuff, where I'm looking at it with my accountant hat on and all that kind of stuff. And then I've got my fitness apps, Strava, and that's kind of the sort of main one I use. I've got my Magic Seaweed app, which is like tells us about the ocean currents and whether you can get out there, and what the weather's going to be like, and so it's. I just think I think the iPhone itself is just fabulous to sort of bring you in touch with the things you're sort of personally interested in and want to get more knowledge on.
just on that as well, I'll challenge it to something. What I did, I used to be really good at not being wedded to email.
Yeah.
Pandemic hit, and I put the app back on my phone.
Yeah.
So I've had email everywhere. So literally last 2 weeks, I've noticed I've literally been almost, I haven't got notifications on, but there's no point because I go into it so often. I'm quicker than the notifications anyway.
Yeah.
So I took email off my phone, off my iPad, and I've only got it on my laptop now. But what I noticed within the first 2 days is my thumb automatically went to where it was every time. Even though it's blank, it was like, I want to play. So take an app off and see how long it takes you for your thumb to recalibrate and say that isn't there any longer, because it was amazing. I'm going to do this. I don't want to do it, but I'm still trying to. So that's got to be some sort of addiction, right? I think.
Well, my phone goes in a drawer now for certain times of the day. Then I take the app off. It's like it goes in the safe.
You've got to walk around with one. Have you got one on the skateboard that just walks around with you?
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much.
Brilliant. Okay. And then in terms of like next 12, 18 months, you've mentioned hopefully filling the existing roles and maybe scaling to a few more roles. Like what's on there? Any like services, digital, anything else in there so that's going on for you?
In terms of kind of the roadmap, and we've been working with you, Matt, around like the digital health check piece and how we can use that, and looking at credit control, I think is a service, and being, I think one of the things you said to me is not being led by the software companies and kind of thinking of it from a process perspective, and that's just changed our approach on a number of fronts, and credit control is one of them, and then also around sort of purchase ordering approval as well. That's something that is a firm we kind of haven't really embraced as much as we can. So I think we've kind of got the bank feeds coming in, and the photos being taken, and we're not quite a daily bookkeeping cycle, but certainly weekly for the clients. We've now got this sort of another story, but I remember going to Accountex and find this tool that sat on top of Sage and produced management accounts in Excel at the push of a button, and I was like, oh my god, that's a game changer, that one.
Yeah.
And now I think we're at the point where the management accounts are in Xero. Clients can go in there, so we're looking at how we can bring a set of management information to the next level, and being able to scale it around probably some kind of video commentary, and something around that as well. I think that'll be quite a powerful thing if clients enjoy it, I suppose.
Yeah, I think clients digest information differently. Some need to read, some need to listen, some need to watch, and some just need to visualize what they're saying. So I think that's sort of for everybody. We've got to sort of play to everybody's sort of ways of digesting information. Yeah. And I think the other thing is, I get the feeling, certainly from the SMEs that I know who are other business owners, I think people's, what's the word I'm looking for here? Their detail that they can get into for how long is just sort of really reducing. So you've really got to pull them into the key areas. And then once you've got them hooked, you can go into the detail. But I think it's the sort of the attention span and the attention detail, I think, has reduced because we've got into this sort of real text and video world that we're in at the minute. So I think that has changed over the pandemic, and I think we've got to be a bit clever, more clever or cleverer. Neither are right. In terms of how we're going to engage with clients with that really good information, like you guys are doing, minimum of weekly bookkeeping. You've got great information. How do you make that relevant and catch the eye of your clients who have got 101 priorities that change every day? So I think that is the challenge for everybody now with this data.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, one last question I was going to ask you, because I've been to one of your offices in Newcastle, but you've got the new office that you had. So do you want to tell us a bit about the background about the new office? Because I think this is brilliant.
Yeah, so well, we bought a pub. So
there you go, straight in.
Yeah. So came about. We've had it a couple of years now, and it's a really fun place to sort of work out of. We've still got.
Is this still a pub then?
Yeah, it's still a pub. Yeah, No, it was a horrible pub when we got it. It was really, it was in a really bad place. I think, like, certainly the local police were really pleased when they heard an accountancy practice were taking it over. So yeah, we've still kept a bar in there, but it's standing workspace. So which is really cool. It's quite interesting at the minute, because we're kind of wondering what we're going to do with it in terms of the team after, we only opened it again 2 weeks ago, and not everyone's kind of wanting to come back into the office, and we've got some ideas about how we can sort of use it as a hybrid type model, and bringing it forward again. But it's we've got a beer garden, and we have got a beer fridge in there. We could actually put a line in, because the cellar's still got all the paraphernalia down, all the stuff down there. And when we got a hold of it as well, we were working with a pop-up brewery, microbrewery. So we were wondering because it came with like tables, chairs, the full lot. The full lot. There was like a little plaque on the end of the bar about some guy who'd probably spent too much time there over his life, because it was his memorial stone.
Really?
Yeah. So it was kind of like, I kind of had an image of what he. I think he didn't have the best nickname. It was that I probably can't say what his nickname was on there. Yeah,
we'll leave it. It might flout the YouTube rules or something like that for us.
Too right. But the space has been really good for moving from that sort of no frills office. It really took us forward, and the team, when they're in there now, enjoy the space. We've got the usual things, our values on the wall. We've actually we've had like quite a nice mural done of the BluSky journey, and where we want to go to, and where we want to get to with it as well.
Brilliant. Well, so don't pop in there for a pint, but pop in there for some advice on your business.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is. I think there's some pictures online as well. But it's if anyone's listening, want to have a look. It's pretty cool. There was a couple of PR stories well around it, I think, if I remember back. So
it was good.
It'd be good to see. But John, I'll bring that to an end. Thanks so much for your time. Some brilliant insights. I love these. I always find out some other stuff, even though I know you already. Find some other bits and bobs really interesting. And I think some of the experience and some of the tips you've given about what you might have done differently with what I think some of the people coming into this world will find really invaluable. So thanks a lot for your time, John.
No, thanks for having us, Matt. It's been really, really fun and enjoyable. So
no worries. Anyone who's listening, you can subscribe on YouTube and iTunes and Spotify and all the other places that you can find this type of podcast. But thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers, John.
Cheers.